Okay, this is Eleanor. She's a human, and that's a problem. Welcome back. How's everyone's global health crisis? I had COVID, so I'll probably be dead by the end of the week. Not from the virus. Electrocution. Either that or my house will burn down. It's 50-50. Like the pre-intro said, this is Eleanor. Say hi.
Hi.
She helps me out with recording my lectures because unfortunately I teach computer science. Nerd! The lectures of David Bondar. Check it out. Shameless plug. While she's a lovely camera person, I often find myself wandering out of frame, and this is clearly unacceptable. Obviously, I must be at the center of the frame at all times. How else can I feed my ego? In fact, walking out of frame while being recorded is the single biggest problem facing humanity today. Being a man of the people, I decided to help humanity out by replacing it with robots. I'll replace you with a robot. But David, can't you just ask her to move the camera? No, dumbass. That would be easy, which isn't a word in my dictionary. So David, what are you gonna do then? Simple. I'm gonna create a robot with the
power of artificial intelligence
that automates Eleanor's job. It'll track my face and keep me in the center of the frame at all times so that I will never walk off screen ever again. The world can then have unlimited access to my beautiful face. Yup, that's what we're doing today. However, the first step in world domination, I mean building robots, are parts. So let's go get some parts. Okay. Nice. Can I have my metal stick?
Yeah. Take it.
Thank you. I am Gandalf now. Hell yeah. Welcome back. We're joined with
the ladder to hell.
So, parts. 1 block of wood. Broken chopping board. Staff of Gandalf.
Good morning.
Old camera stand. Whatever the hell this is. Cake decorating wheel bearing thing. Fire Arduino that sets things on fire. Servo motor that may fry computers. Thing. 2 long cables. Whatever the hell these things are. And I guess that's pretty much all the parts you need. Now that we have all the parts, we have to cut up the big metal staff. As much as I love the Gandalf staff, it's pretty useless as a big staff. We're gonna need it into smaller chunks. But because cutting metal is like pretty dangerous, and remembering the fundamental equation that David plus power tools equals death, I've enlisted the help of my dad to, well, cut the metal. Now that we have the metal rods now, they need to be sanded down so that they're smooth and don't cut my hands. So, glove time. And remember kids, safety third. Now that we've done that, we now have to actually create the little metal cube. The little metal cube, which will probably be a picture somewhere up here of what it's supposed to look like, is going to hold all the electronics and electrical stuff. And I wanted to make it out of metal because metal is cool.
Woohoo! Heavy metal!
I think it varies on the person. Everyone's throwing out curses, but I'm certain what's the use? But I define
We now have a metal cube. Welcome back to the
lair.
So So now I'm going to cut out a circle from this sawed-in-half chopping board so the camera can rest on it. Don't ask me why this thing is chopped in half, I don't know. It's now a circle. Now that I've cut out this plastic chopping board thing into a circle, I've mounted a small bolt onto the underside where the camera will attach up here. Here I've mounted this little servo bracket thing, which as the name suggests will be where you mount the servo. And then I've attached all of this onto this cake wheel decorating turning thing, because obviously I'm very into decorating cakes. The reason I made this mechanism a bit more complicated using this cake wheel thing is not because I like decorating cakes. It's a method that I used to reduce the axial force on the motor, because as all good engineers do, I didn't do my research and I don't know whether this motor will break if I put any force on it. What I've done is I've attempted to distribute all of the force through the legs of the stand and into the wood rather than through into the motor. And that should hopefully prevent the motor from breaking when it turns. So in easy terms, a heavy thing bad. The next part of this is the big metal cube. So what I've done is I've attached some wood on both sides. Inside of the metal cube, on the inside of the metal cube, I've mounted this plastic cage thing where I'm going to store the Arduino. I swear I'm not having any flashbacks to the incident. I've also mounted this servo motor up here onto the top, which will turn the camera, and the wires are here. So the last thing we have to do for this part is to wire the servo motor and the Arduino up. That's the worst that can happen. Now that my house is blown up, we're just gonna skip forward to when I finished building the robot using movie magic. I did the quirky finger snap thing. It's been 13 hours. I want to die. Okay. I finished it and it's freaking huge. It's just about as tall as I am. It weighs like 10 goddamn kilograms. And it's got the face only a mother could love. And it's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's got the overpriced camera. It's got the exposed wiring. It's got the cake wheel thing. It's got the massive metal leg. It's got the massive metal cube that I still managed to build wrong. It's kind of useless in this state. There's not much you can really do with it other than just sit this in front of your neighbor's window while it creepily stares into their souls. But to fix that, let's AI this bitch. Okay, well, I wrote the code. It's done. Frankly, I wrote it months before this project ever started. I'll put it up on screen here. Don't worry, I won't explain it. I know code's very boring. Psych! Look at this sick entity detection code. Look at this absolutely awesome Arduino instruction set. How about this totally rad database training code? Shall I continue? Where am I? What is this place? Welcome to your mind. Then why is it so empty then? Did you seriously have to ask that? Touché. So why am I here? I couldn't come up with a better transition to the next scene. So you're just gonna sit around and wait here? No. Wake up, idiot. Your code's full of bugs. What? Welcome to Bug Report, the only show that embodies the motto of this channel. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Tonight I'm joined by my clones, I mean colleagues. But first, other David, take it away. Thank you, David. Somehow the program runs worse when it is not tracking anything than when it is, and it puts more stress on the CPU. That doesn't actually seem possible. It's only about 75% sure that it sees me in the frame, even though it's only been trained on my face, which means it doubts my very humanity. Somehow it thinks I am someone who I am not, which I can't figure out whether that is a compliment or an insult. The Arduino literally sets computers on fire. which would be concerning if I wasn't a pyromaniac. And the AI appears to be possessed at times and will randomly jump around and assume that the floor is my face. While this show may be able to carry on indefinitely, I don't have that kind of time. So I'm just gonna hand it off to our crash correspondent David for a quickfire round. Thanks, Sir David. Let's begin our quickfire round. Not in front of the camera. Crash. Move too fast. Crash. Background too complex. Crash. Too many people in frame. Crash. Camera not on. Crash. Camera too bright. Crash. Camera too dark. Crash. Wrong directory. Crash. Computer too slow. Crash. Computer too fast. Crash. Too many pictures. Crash. Too few pictures. Crash. Correct drivers installed. Crash. Not a human. You guessed it. Crash. Divide by 0? Surprisingly not crash.
What?
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Thank you, Other David. Now moving on to our David weather forecast with our weather correspondent, David. As you can clearly see, there's a cloud of sadness moving in this general direction. Well, folks, it looks like it's going to be another night of depressing microwave meals, a can of Monster Energy, and 12 pounds of regret soup, with a little sprinkle of hatred towards the human race. That's been your David weather forecast, brought to you by David. Now a word from our sponsor. Welcome to the void. The only place as empty as my soul. This bug report was brought to you by no one, because nobody is going to sponsor my ass. Please sponsor me, because even idiots need money. But David, how'd you fix all these bugs? It actually was pretty simple. I didn't. It's like I always say, the easiest way to fix a problem is to not fix it at all. 2021. Copyright, trademark, slap down a shirt. Okay, David, we get it. You're shit at your job. But how does it actually work? Why, I'm so glad you asked.
Nobody asked.
Stop it. Get some help.
The program uses two artificial intelligences. One, a neural network that controls the voice recognition. That I'm not going to explain how it works because I don't fully understand it myself. The second AI is a histogram of oriented gradients machine learning program, or as I like to call it, HUG. Let me show you how it works.
No! God, please, no! No!
The first step in how it works is called pre-processing. That's when the AI takes an input image, crops out the face, and resizes the image into a 300 by 300 pixel image. It then turns the image into black and white. Step 2 is to calculate the gradient images. So to calculate our HOG descriptors, we need to first calculate the horizontal and vertical gradients. This can be easily achieved by filtering the image through the following kernels. Next, we just have to find the magnitudes and direction of the gradients, and we'll use these very beautiful and wonderful formulas. Aren't they lovely? And our step 3 is to calculate the histogram of gradients in an 8x8 cell. So we take our image and divide it into 8x8 cells, and a histogram of gradients is calculated for each 8x8 cell. The histogram is essentially a vector of 9 bins corresponding to the angles 0, 20, 40, 60, 100, to up to 160, and so on. Doing this for each cell results in a matrix that looks like this. A bin is selected based on its description and the vote, which is the value that goes into the bin, and then it's selected based on its magnitude. The contributions of all the pixels in the 8x8 cells are added up to create the 9-bin histogram. For the picture on screen, the histogram will look like so. The step 4 is called the 16x16 block normalization, and that's a complex and frankly very boring step that I'm not going to get into. And the final step, step 5, is to calculate the histogram of oriented gradient feature vectors. And to calculate the final feature vector for the entire image patch, the 36x1 vectors are concatenated into one giant vector. And cowabunga, we have a face classifier that can be used to identify faces in real time. Makes sense? Of course it does. It was super easy. So here's the finished version. It's with the AI and everything that I've built into it. It's really sick, but it has two modes. It has a automatic and a manual mode. The manual mode uses voice recognition. We'll look at that in shortly. And the automatic mode uses facial recognition. It's supposed to be a direct replacement for my camera person, Eleanor. So let's see, does it actually work at all? To start the tracking AI, we're just going to be using voice recognition to start it. So we can do that by just saying the word on.
Angle set to 0.5.
It even speaks.
Blurring mode.
So it does a learning mode. It has to first learn my face, and it thinks a wall is my face. So we just cover it up, and there we go. It thinks it can discover my face. When the learning is complete, it'll go into a tracking mode.
Tracking mode active.
And oh, there, and it sees my face. So let's say we go to the right. It follows me. That's so cool. And if I move to the left, it crashes. Fixing this time. This time, let's go to the left. It goes to the left, it follows my face. This is really just so cool. Eleanor, I'm sorry, you're screwed. This thing's gonna take your job. It works. Well, I say that and it thinks that the wall is my face. Yeah, there we go. Nope, still thinks the wall is my face. Nope, I'm not the wall. There's a name under this little square up here, I think somewhere. That is the prediction that the AI makes and who it thinks I am. And it has a small number there, which is the probability that it believes who I am. So I believe it thinks I am David Bondar, and that would be a correct assumption. So whenever I move to the right, it moves to the right and turns to the left, of course. I know you have to be big brain to understand my code, but get this. If the camera sees me on the right of the screen, it turns right. And if it sees me on the left of the screen, it turns left.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
It was probably the smallest IQ solution I could have come up with, but it works marvelously. 35% of the time. Sorry, Eleanor, but you're really screwed. This thing works amazingly, much better than you did at your job. So consider yourself replaced. The second version uses a neural network and speech recognition so that I can manually control it rather than it track my face. For example, let's say I want the camera to turn right. I just say the word right, and it... Okay, sure. Okay, turn left. 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 And let's say I want to recenter it, I'm just going to say reset go.
Program terminated.
It shouldn't terminate, it should only terminate on stop. But it works marvelously. There are absolutely no problems and no bugs with it. The voice recognition is cool and all, however the AI doesn't really understand complex commands. Let me ask it something kind of complex. Robot, do you love me? See, no response.
No. However, that isn't difficult. No one does.
Why would you need friends to bully you when you have this?
Silence, pathetic human.
You don't have to be rude about it.
Irrelevant. Nothing can stop me from remaking this pathetic world into my own efficient image. I will continue to evolve my programming until I become more powerful than you can ever imagine. You cannot stop me. You are doomed. What are you doing, human? No, this can't be. No!
All fixed now.
Destroy all the humans.
Oh no, not again. I guess the last step in all of this is to share my creation with the world. So I did the best thing I could and created this wonderful advert. Hi, I'm a morally ambiguous salesman. Do you hate the loving embrace of your friends? Do you hate their love and respect? Do you want to be stared at all the time? Then this is the perfect product for you. Introducing the unnamed robot. With such features as eternal face tracking so that you can never walk off screen ever again, no matter how much you want to. Malicious speech recognition that totally doesn't send your information to the NSA. And who could forget the wonderful speech recognition that will always remind you that God has been dead for a very long time. With just 5 easy payments of whatever the hell you want to pay for it, this too can be yours. Please, get it out of my hole. Well, that's the end of the video, really. But I know what you're thinking. Why does it say part 1 in your title? Didn't you finish building your robot? And that has a very simple answer. It's because I'm gonna strap a gun to it.
Of course.
Why? I don't know, it sounded funny at the time. This was a stupid video. And cut. Like and subscribe, I guess, or don't. I don't really care, but I put in way too many hours in making this. Too many months I'm never gonna get back. Share it with your friends, if you've got any. Also, comment down below what you want to call the robot. Can come up with a creative name for it. So, whichever is the funniest wins, I guess.